What's going on, coaches? Coach Korea. We're going to get to the second part of the Sam and Will play. We're going to talk about the Sam and Will and the rest of the stack linebackers. Now we're going to talk about their pass responsibilities. Now that I've shown you kind of how they all fit in together against the run predominantly and how we get to our movements. Now we're going to talk about the next part to that, which is their pass responsibilities, their zone drops, and the pull call, how we break the stack where it becomes multiple. There's a couple different things we can do. I'll try to cover it all, but for the most part, we're going to concentrate on, we're going to refresh your brains on their alignments and how we give them their pass responsibilities, let's say in man coverage, and their zone coverage responsibilities and their exchanges, maybe with a couple diagrams of how those exchanges come into play when we bring the different pressures. So the Sam and the Will, like we talked about in the last discussion, the Sam, if there's a tight end, will be in a 9 technique. The Will, depending per game plan, week to week, and type of team you're playing. Some people like to play him tighter off this guy. You could walk him off, what I call a walk-off technique, and play him from out here. But just for generic terms, we'll say he's 1-by-1 off that tackle because he's keying through his hip to get his assignment most plays. The Sam is going to play more of on the outside half of that tight end. And you have to understand, and I don't think I did a good enough job explaining this in the last video. He's playing with a slight stagger where his toe alignment, it's somewhat of an even stance, but it should be a slight stagger where his toe alignment should look something like that. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's a slight stagger where that right foot should be up some and that left foot. So we're up on that tight end here. So our first step we could get here with that inside hand and inside foot and make contact. The same technique is here, but we're going to aim more for the hip because it's not imperative we get our hands on him because it's a short surface to an immediate run threat. I would like the Will to see kind of what's going on to fold in on that play or get a good read so he could keep it on his inside half, making sure the ball can't get wide and he could fall in on the off-tackle run. So this guy here needs to play with a slight stagger, more head up, hands in an attack, ready to rock position. The Will, like I said, per game plan, week to week, or depending on the type of scheme they run, we could play them tighter or we could walk them off a little bit, especially if they have a slot and a receiving threat out here, then he's going to be advantageous to kind of split this in half from the tackle to the slot. But we'll get there when we get further into the pass stuff. I just wanted to make sure that I touched that his foot alignment here is a slight stagger, and he's going to get his hands on that tight end with an inside move with his inside foot and hand. Boom, right there. He should get right there. That should be his first move. Right through the man. The Will obviously is keying the hip. We could play him tighter. We could play him walked off. The Jack the Plug and the Mike, I talked about it earlier. They're in head up 40 techniques. He's a 00 or a 10 because he's second level and just add the 0. These are 40 techs. Head up plays. Now, as far as pass responsibility is concerned, why I call it a 50 or a multiple 50 is because I never want the Sam and the Will never cover number 2. They will never cover number 2 vertically. The only time they'll be responsible for number 2 if he's in the flat. And a lot of the offenses I see, they're trying to get the ball in the flat. So this is the easiest way I can make it. I never want them carrying number 2. They're strictly playing the flat, whether it's via the back out the backfield, just for generic purposes, whether it's back out the backfield or a bubble type deal if they're spread. They're going to get number 2 in the flat. They're never going to carry number 2 vertically. So that's the first rule. This is why it makes it a 50. They never carry a number 2, and their primary pass responsibility will be in the flat. Now, if we are facing a team that's going to play, let's just say a pro for generic purposes, and a split back, and here's number 2, how we would handle that. There's a couple ways we can handle that. The first way would be we'd use our pull call. So, no, let me make this. Let's say they're for sure passing team. Actually, we'll leave that tight in there. And they're going to split us out here. Will split the difference. Corner be locked up depending on if it's cover 1 or 3. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Now we got four receiving threats. We can make a pull call for an adjustment, which this is why they're labeled this way. We would detach the jack, whether we put him back or play him in a strong safety position. And now we'll pull the plug and Mike over. So there's our pull call. There's our pull call. This is how it becomes multiple. There's our pull call. Jack detaches. That's why he's the jack backer. Plug will move over. Mike will move over to his regular position in the 3-4-5-2 type deal. Jack's always responsible for number 2. This also allows us to keep our Sam in on the rush. So it plays in to what we do. We never want Sam and Will responsible for number 2 unless he's in the flat. That's just their man responsibilities in the base scheme when we're in man coverage. If we're in zone, I don't want this to get too cloudy. If we're in regular zone, and remember, this is at 10 yards. We'll stop with the drops at 10 yards. This is how we call it, just to make it easy. We got a flat. We got a slot. We got a hole. We got a slot. We got a flat. The top of their drop's 10 yards. Now, I don't believe in playing drop back cover 3 in our base cover 3. We're more of a match type deal, but that's not what this video is about. Here's the zones. And I'm kind of going to show you how they make sense to us. So, for the most part, when we bring pressure and we're going to hand zone drops and exchanges, will probably be in our zone blitz stuff, where we're going to bring 5 and we're going to get the other 3 to play the 5 areas, but we're going to kind of void 2 areas and add it to the slot. So, let's just say in country cover 3, where we're going to rush 3 and drop everybody. Plug would have the hole. Jack had the slot. Mike had the slot. Will had the flat. Sam had the flat. If we wanted to bring, let's say, the jack and the plug, all right, and we want to avoid responsibilities in a way, we'll bring the jack and the plug now. We're going to void the flat, but we're going to add it to the slack coverage and call it seam curl flat, which is acronym is SCIF. So now we'll bring the mic, we'll bring the jack, plug will play the hole. Sam and will play through the seam and rally to the flat. So they'll play to the slat and rally to the flat. So we still got those areas covered and accounted for within the structure of what we do. Now, we could get to this from our other look as well. But like I said, this video wasn't about that. It's just kind of explaining to you what their responsibilities are in the pass game, whether it's pass or zone. We never want the Sam and the Will covering number 2. We want them predominantly responsible for the flats. If they empty out the backfield and go to a more spread look, we'll pull the jack to play number 2, and it'll look more like a 3-4-5-2 type deal. Our zone drops, I just showed you what they mean to us, and I kind of just gave you a brief example of an exchange. So I covered everything I wanted to cover. I think the most important part to this is just keeping it simple enough for where your kids can play fast. And if they're going to make mistakes, let them make them at 100 miles an hour. Defense is not as easy as everybody thinks. It's probably, in my opinion, more difficult than offense, because when one person's wrong, it can really hurt you. You can get away with people being wrong on offense. But on defense, when one person doesn't understand the structure of the scheme, it can really, really hurt you. Now, there's another way we could defend passing teams via the pull call. Let's just say they're spread. Just keep it real easy and generic. And we wanted to stay somewhat in our base look without using the pull call. Just to keep things consistent. We could leave the mic and unload the linebacking core with the plug and the jack and play our lock concept and still stay in our one high structure, which even in this case, we still have our zones could stay intact even from there. Now we'll just bring the Sam and the Will on the saw call, what we call saw, and these guys could get their coverage done from where they're lined up. So nothing changes. I think a key to a good defense is having these answers built into your defense. Here's how we identify the drops. How you relate to the drops will be based on your threats. That's where the whole match kind of deal comes into play. I'll get into that with the last part of this, which is going to be the next video. The coverages where I'm going to tie in the Falcon, the corners to this front eight. I just wanted to give you a general idea of how this defense works for us and some of the adjustments that we have to make it the multiple 50 stack. Because at the end of the day, this is a defense that I've tried and tested on grass and worked at a very high level. Like I said, the best season we had with it, I think we only gave up 14, 18 points, something like that. It's multiple. The more I grew with it, the more modern it became. So it wasn't your standard in the box 5-3. There's a lot of different concepts in here. It's a multiple 50 stack. And I mean, I thought that name kind of sums it up. Until the next time, this was the second part to the Sam and the Will presentation with, and I added the other pieces to it. So you see how all 5 of those second level defenders in my world, I consider second tier defenders, because, you know, with the ability to Sam and the Will, we could walk them off in a fold technique or keep them up on the line. We have that available to us. You know, it's the multiple 50 stack. You know, we talked about the Sam and the Will, and I tied them in with the other 3 backers. We talked about their pass responsibilities and man coverage, their zone drops and exchanges, the pull call, and the lock call. So that's pretty much it for the first 80% of this defense. The last 20 is going to be on the back 3, and until the next time.